This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
This is Everything Elite, the world's best podcast devoted exclusively to all elite wrestling and the elite extended universe. I'm Aaron Bentley. I'm here with a new mic, baby, and I'm joined by Mike Spears. What's up, Mike?
Hey, y'all. It's your old pal, Iron Mike Spears. I exist as much as I did last week. Take it as you will. I don't really have a whole lot this week. How are you doing, Big Cat?
Well, you know, during all this shit, there are good days and there are bad days, and today is a bad day, friends. So I'm hoping to get my energy going. It's nice to be talking to my buddies about pro wrestling, but, you know, just not the best day that's ever happened. Nate, how's your day, buddy? You're here, Epitasis. How are you doing?
I am here. I'm sorry to hear that you're not having a great day, Aaron. Over here, I'm having a pretty major one. You know, it's raining today. Red and Leaf both showed up to my island for the first time, so that's pretty monumental. Looks like we're going to have a new wing to the museum is going to be added on here shortly. So, you know, really everything's coming up Millhouse.
Now, did you have to do the Azalea Bush's daily quest today, or did you just have something else with Leaf?
No, I started off my my bush planting quest for Earth Day, so that's been done. Got my hedges from Tom Nook. Got my first painting donated, really just on top of it. And, you know, I'm really looking forward to the next evolution of my island.
Hey, I mean, I'm about to have the store upgrade happening tomorrow. So I'm trying to get everything done before I can't access the store for a day.
Beautiful. Mine actually just completed today. So we're right there.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Now,
yeah, three items at a time from the little boys.
Hey, I mean, it gets to a certain point where Nintendo's trying to lock down on everyone, trying to make as many bells as they can, but we're all out here trying just try to make it.
Too late. They can't stop me. I'm way over the I don't know, the point of no return as far as wealth, because just my interest is going to keep me rich forever now.
Yeah. I mean, how's your island going, AB?
Well, I don't have whatever bank Joe are talking about, but Azalea Banks stopped by my island today. Tell me that she's a big fan of the podcast. Great. She thinks it's high energy. We don't sound zanned out on most episodes. So I was pretty pleased with how my island went today.
We're right. That was good. That was my backup idea for banter, as I was going to talk about how I flushed all my Klonopin down the toilet because I wanted to make sure Azalea kept listening. So I'm glad we're right there on the same wavelength.
Some things had to bring me joy today, and by God, that did. So that was excellent. All right, so it's time for the nicest episode of Everything Elite. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find us at Everything AEW. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Nate is at Epitasis. Mike is at Fuji Heya. You can subscribe to the podcast. You can search, what's the name of our podcast? Everything Elite on the podcast app of your choice, or subscribe to the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Give us a rating and review if you're on the podcast app, and make sure you check out patreon.com/Everything Elite if you need a little more EE content on your phone or wherever you listen to podcasts. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to play Elite or Delete. Not a lot of extra news, so we'll have to get back to our old show opener. We'll be running down what happened on Dynamite last night. We will be talking about ratings, and we have most of the show announced for next week's Dynamite. So we'll run down what's going to happen next week. But we might as well just jump right into it and play the best game in the entire world.
Delete! Elite! Delete! Elite! Delete! Elite! Elite! Delete! Elite! Delete!
All right, Nate, what do you got? What's your elite pick of the week?
All right, so I'm gonna leave the obvious one for somebody else because my stream was fucking up a little bit right at the top of the show here. So instead, going to take a dark horse here. The best friends versus roommates feud is kind of endearing itself to me at this point. Had a pretty fun little match with Jimmy Havoc and Orange Cassidy. I thought this was about the most entertaining that Jimmy Havoc has been in this promotion. Previously on the show, I was worried that, one of these guys has to lose at this point, and I didn't think it should be Orange Cassidy because he is like a bona fide star at this point. Have to shout out Raw is online. He pointed out that Orange Cassidy is killing the rest of the AEW videos on YouTube. Like he's doing, 5 times as many views as like Chris Jericho segments and shit. So glad to see that he got the win. And I'm kind of amused by this trio of Penelope, Kip, and Jimmy as basically goofy losers. I don't know. This promotion does a great job of making the jobbers pretty entertaining. I suppose I just mean the main roster jobbers, your Peter Avalons and your Brandon Cutlers. And I don't know. The more Jimmy Havoc loses, I feel like I'm going to like it more.
It's just funny, like that they fully acknowledge whatever headcanon, or they decided that they're going to make this into complete canon about the fact that they all live together, and now they just are 3 people that really should not be on the same team, but they're just like the goofy British house, with Penelope Ford, I guess, representing Philadelphia, and Jimmy Havoc in the basement. So I like that they're doing this, and they're giving people who are lower down on the card something else to do while they're trying to do like all this build to the TNT Championship. And Orange Cassidy is one of those things that, for the most part, like cinematic wrestling is whatever. Like that's boring thing to talk about now. Just as boring as like Kenny Omega giving too much to a jobber. But Orange Cassidy is just such a delight each week. Whenever he's out there, it's one of those things that I think that they do a good job on realizing, capitalizing. And I mean, as friend of the show, Raul's Online pointed out, like he's a crossover person, and he's someone that I think that it's a big struggle right now for them to claw uphill given circumstances. But having someone like Orange Cassidy around in a time where everyone's craving content is just a smart idea. So I'm all for this.
Yeah, I also really liked they built this match that they're going to do next week with a best friends backstage interview segment. And, those are always money for me. Those land every time. Said before that the best friends are really like, even as goofy as they are, they just feel the most real and the most authentic, and they have the most contemporary approach on wrestling in this company as far as like, them and Colt Cabana, like, taking it seriously, but still acknowledging the silliness of whatever. So that hit for me. Say what we will about Kip Sabian, but him in the best friends feud works a little better than him in the main event.
Yeah, I thought the most interesting thing about the Orange Cassidy Jimmy Havoc thing was that you're right, Nate, that Jimmy Havoc was more interesting than he's ever been. But it's like maybe Orange Cassidy is about 10 times the wrestler that anybody gives him credit for based on the gimmick, because he is the reason Jimmy Havoc was so interesting here. Jimmy Havoc was doing the same shit, but Orange Cassidy really played into it and made him seem vicious and evil and spooky and all those good things.
Hot Jim's a star. We just have to accept it. He is one of the most underrated wrestlers in the world, and he's been doing this now for like 12, 13 years. Like I'm right now watching stuff like in Dragon Gate USA where like he's popping up a little bit, and it's just like, okay, wow, all right, like let's get aboard this. So yeah, no, totally. Orange Cassidy is making Jimmy Havoc interesting, which is something I did not think would happen this year.
What do we make of Orange Cassidy having such higher YouTube views than everybody else? Like he didn't have a lot of like exposure previous to this. So how has he become so popular?
Well, he crossed over into whatever remains of like casual wrestling fandom, or even just like viral video watching, right? Like, and I think going back to basically when this promotion checked out on Evolve is when he started getting shown in Evolve more and kind of caught on there and started catching on to PWG and in GCW. I think it's just that his videos play well on YouTube because they are comical and subversive and reliably very entertaining. And it must just be that once he's in the algorithm, people that have previously enjoyed his shit, they start serving up related AEW videos or something. That's my, I don't think people went out yesterday and started searching Orange Cassidy on YouTube like they do every day. I think it's just that there's a, the algorithm or whatever probably has a pre-existing knowledge that this guy has some appeal to get fed to whatever casual YouTube viewers there are.
Yeah, I find that fascinating. It looks like they're not going to overexpose him by like throwing him in a singles match every week or whatever. But at this time, where he's one of the few roster members that can be on every show, they're smart to find ways to incorporate him every week, and they've done a good job of that so far. Mike, your elite pick of the week?
So this is not just an elite pick, but this is a little game I want to play for y'all that I
Mike,
have.
we're already playing a game. We're in a game right now.
Oh no, this is the mini game here. Like we all just like pull up
games within games.
Games within games. This is the game of games. All right, so I got an interesting text from a family member Tuesday night while I was doing something else. It was from my mom, and my mom, not a wrestling person whatsoever, but somehow, as she's cleared out her complete DVR, she came across an AEW commercial, and she thought it was the most interesting thing. And this plays into something with the program is how well they've been doing like video content this lately. And especially like you had Scorpio Sky's one there. You have the whole like Hardy like bait and switch video here, but she saw like the public interest one, the one that like had like everyone living their lives and then going back in the ring, the one that has like Darby and Britt Baker and Scorpio Sky are like the three of the big people here. I want to play a game with you two. Of the three people I mentioned, of which I've talked to my mother about all three of them, which one is Mama Spears' favorite AEW wrestler?
So my immediate guess from my recollection of that spot of that ad video was I thought it played best for Scorpio Sky. So I'm going to guess Scorpio.
Okay.
I'm going to stay on brand as always, and I'm going to guess that it jumps over the Kentucky-Louisville divide, and Mama Spears was most drawn to Darby Allin.
Point to AB. Mama Spears loves some Darby Allin. She was like, he was skateboarding and then he was using the skateboarding in the ring. Does he really do that? I was like, yeah, Mom. He uses the skateboard as like his stuff. It's like, does anyone do that in wrestling before? That's kind of neat. And I'm like, no, Mom. He's the only one who really uses skateboards. He even puts like
Johnny Ace.
Yeah, and she was just like, oh, like a woman in her 60s who never really watched wrestling before knows who Johnny Ace is. AB. Come on.
Right, sure. Actually, your dad is the Louisville guy, right? So
no, she's the Louisville guy. She's the Louisville woman. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so, cats and cards.
Yeah. I mean, what can we say about that? But yeah, I just wanted to do a quick little game of that, just because there's a Scorpio tie-in, and I thought like they did a really good job of. You have all these people who are off air now, just because of unless you're someone who consumes all the content, you're not watching. You have not seen really the Bucks or SEU that much over the last month. And they did a really good job of not only with the Scorpio Sky interest piece, but also like bringing in the BTE plug, making sure that everyone's aware that there's other stuff going on that's not just on TV. And I think this also plays into the idea of how big Orange Cassidy is on YouTube views. Like the idea is that this is like an overall ecosystem. And I feel like that it's taken them a long time for them to figure it out. But this was something where I felt like this week where they had like a very clear idea of how do we like weave together all this content. I think that felt really appreciative this week.
So, maybe I missed something. How is that jumping the Louisville, Kentucky divide to Darby?
Mama Spears is a Louisville fan, or she went to Louisville.
Yeah, she's a Louisville alum.
What is the significance of Kentucky?
I'm a Kentucky guy.
Louisville and Kentucky have.
But Darby Allin is not a Kentucky guy.
No, but Mama Spears and I are both Darby Allin people, even though.
So that's bringing you together through that, despite that strife that would otherwise be between you.
Exactly.
Yes, Darby brings us together.
Yeah.
It's the meme. I wanted to double check. Did I miss that Darby had a Kentucky connection? His Wikipedia lists his accolades, including the winner of Style Battle 7. I thought that was cool.
Oh, hell yeah.
Beautiful. I agree, Mike. And I was thinking at the start of the show, I was worried. It was like, okay, we're seeing the same people every week in matches pretty much. And even like backstage stuff, whatever, mostly the same people.
Even the same jobbers. Yeah.
Right. And I started thinking, this is a big reason why WWE sucks so much shit, is that it's like the same stale people over and over again. John Cena, which he's not there, and I know now, but it's like every week is John Cena. Every week now, I guess, is Seth Rollins. You don't get a chance to breathe. And I was really worried that this was going to continue into that type of realm. I mean, when I woke up yesterday, the first time ever, I was like, fuck, Dynamite tonight. It's like I really was not looking forward to watching it. but they were able to bring in Scorpio Sky. They had other things throughout with videos. Even that started the Cody video, even though we've seen Cody a lot, it was something different from him. But they were able to freshen things up throughout the show to where it became fun and exciting, and I was happy to have gotten to watch it.
Yeah, that's a point in the promotion's favor, I think, throughout its run, is that they really have not overexposed anybody. And this is the closest they've gotten. And of course, there are the extenuating circumstances that they had a very limited roster for this set of tapings. So you kind of have to give them a pass on that. But yeah, I love not having the same people wrestle every week. I love missing somebody for a week, or just having them in a promo, or just having them in a pre-tape. I think that's great. And I think it's when they can get back to full strength or whatever, we're gonna see that pay off.
All right, I guess it's my turn to make my elite pick of the week. And I'm going to go with, the favorite, the chalk pick, and that's the Darby Allin versus Sammy Guevara match. This was great, of course, but I want to go somewhere else with it other than just talking about how great of a match it was, which it was. But you also had Jericho making sure we understood that there was a callback to their match at Revolution with Darby attacking Sammy before the match. Sammy, of course, attacked Darby before this match got going in earnest. And I was already thinking it coming into the show. If you listen to Light, you heard that. But I really believe that these two matches are the start of something that's going to be absolutely central to this promotion's history going forward. I think 5 years, 10 years from now, we'll look back at these matches as being really important. And we will see Darby and Sammy having worked their way up together. And then at the end of it, they'll be at the top of the promotion together. And we'll have these fun little video packages where we look back at these matches and it's like, wow, how much they've grown. I mean, you look back at the kind of people that you've seen this between, like John Cena, Randy Orton, that sort of thing, Brett and Shawn. Even if you want to get real serious about it, Misawa and Kawada. But
probably BXB Hulk and Shingo Takagi would be my pick for that.
Yes, BXB Hulk, one of my favorites.
Yeah, great pick.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
So I think
I didn't know that it was BB Hulk, and then I was just like, oh, I gotta land this.
Yeah. You landed
right over
it,
the front of it.
Right across the bow. Good shot across the bow.
For AEW, that's going to be Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, a different type of wrestler. Both of them, two people who really couldn't penetrate to where they wanted to be before AEW, but they're going to land here as stars and feud at the top of this promotion for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and I think that I'm going to be real interested to see 2025, what kind of stuff they are, and it'll be an interesting thing if we're at Everything Elite episode 369 at that point, talking about this, bringing up the fact that I'll make an alert on my phone for 5 years to bring this up to you, just in case. Because, the match was solid, and I feel like that Jericho and Schiavone did a great job of getting the importance of the match across. And, these are two guys that, at least at this time, like we just talked about, people who aren't around as much because of the realities of the extenuating circumstances, as other companies would call it, but because of COVID-19 and the coronavirus, these are two guys who are able to be there. And it's something that's, I think, the fact that they were here and they're able to start building this here is something that will pay off for them and great dividends as we go down the line.
Jericho actually said pandemic on this show. I think that's the first time on any of these shows that word has been uttered. But anyway.
I do. I'm looking forward to see how they de-escalate this match going forward. Because, of course, the first match had them murdering each other before the bell and doing, I don't know what it was, a 630 to the outside through a table. And this had Sammy murdering Darby with a ladder that didn't break, and just, everybody comes up bleeding and just absolutely brutal. I'm looking to see, when we get to the match where it's just like, no high spots, never touch the ropes, just pure technical wrestling, trading, near pins or whatever for 20 minutes. That's where I'm interested to see this go now.
Well, it was interesting here that Darby went for like the footwork. Footwork is not really the word I want to use.
There was a lot of hand and feet stuff on the show.
It's a good genre of music.
Yeah, sure. So it was nice to see. Darby did ground the match for a bit, but you're right. You got this crazy stuff around it. Friends of the show, Oatgan and Kara, both suggested that it was similar to Hiromu and Dragon Lee. And I see that from like what you're talking about, just like the craziness of the matches. I foresee Sammy and Darby feuding for the AEW title. And I don't think Dragon Lee and Hiromu are going to do that.
Maybe Hiromu might get there.
Hiromu, yeah, I could see that for sure. All right, well, let's move into what was bad from the show. And honestly, I didn't think there was a ton that was bad, but what do you want to delete, Nate?
Yeah, so this will go hand in hand with my pick earlier, where I put over the weird roommates trio earlier. Just nobody bought this stipulation for the main event, so it really couldn't carry the segment when you had a long main event match with Dustin Rhodes and Kip Sabian here. You know, they did all the work necessary to try to get you to buy the stipulation. Like, they established it on the road twos, they carried it forward, commentary kept putting it over, they had segments on the show about it, but just nobody was going to buy it. I think really the most obvious point against it, like Brian Alvarez was like, Dustin Rhodes is not an idiot. If he's going to do his last match, he's going to do it in front of fans so he can have a big moment and where it can draw money. And it could do neither in this position. This was like maybe to give a little juice to this episode and be like, hey, there's actually something meaningful with stakes on this show. But nobody bought it. So the match result was pretty much set in stone before it began. So then you're, watching a 15-minute match or whatever. I don't know what it was, 12-minute match with Kip Sabian and Dustin Rhodes, where you know the result already. And it's like, well, not really going to work. Maybe just put Darby and Sammy in that spot. I don't know.
Yeah, like it just was impossible to buy into. I think we talked about that yesterday on Light. This was like the stipulation, and it was like, oh wow, you're announcing this 2 days, like, or even less than that before the show. Like, you announced this on Road 2, and then you're putting it over social media. But it's not like it's not like that they were giving you a false bill of goods here. Like that's like, I'm not going to jump to that conclusion, but just was something that with like the viewer and the fact that AEW for the most part does not insult their viewers, like no one bought into it. And as soon as you did this, like you had what I made note of it. They made sure not to have a 15-minute Kip Sabian match as the main event. They had basically a 13-minute one. So yeah, and the match just didn't work. It was not a very good match. And I've come to the conclusion that they see something a lot more in Kip Sabian than I ever will. So it's what it is. And sadly, I don't think Dustin was at his best either during this match. It just was kind of there. And it was kind of a bummer because this was like an hour and a half of great TV, like the show for like what we're dealing with. And yes, it's grading on a curve. I enjoyed this probably as much as some of the full arena shows or like the show on the boat. Like there was enough here that I felt like I was like, hey, like looked at my watch suddenly and was like, oh, it's 9:30 already. Damn, the show's almost over. And I was like having a great time. And then it slowed down to a sudden halt with Kip Sabian versus Dustin Rhodes, which is just, I'm just going to accept it's just not my thing. So
Cubs fan also made a great point, which you guys have kind of touched on, but it was really that AEW has too much goodwill with its fans for the fans to buy into this. You could imagine WWE making like a mid-level legendary type wrestler have to retire in front of fucking no fans on a taped show.
I mean, they faked it with Mark Henry back in the day too. Like
Right.
They used it as like a bait and switch before. So WWE does not have the goodwill, even though the promo was awesome for Mark Henry. Then,
Fucking Kurt Angle retiring to Baron Corbin for no
right.
reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like, yeah, sure.
Right. But with AEW, we just understand that they're not going to do that sort of thing to us. So they have to realize they have to play to that type. They can't play against some other type that doesn't actually reflect the type of promotion that they've been and the type of goodwill they have with their fans. So I'm just going to, I guess this is boring because we've already talked about it, but I'm going to do my delete now. And it's just going to be Kip Sabian generally. I mean, he's kind of in a bad spot because he's one of the few people available to wrestle, but the promotion isn't doing him any favors. They're putting him in long matches in big spots. They can't do it. I'm not willing to throw out Kip Sabian forever. I'm not willing to say like, oh, he should quit or whatever. I'm sure he's got a lot of years left.
That's a very measured response from you, because I feel like usually if there was a segment you didn't like, you'd be like, I never want to see that person again.
I mean, I did tweet, please stop making me watch Kip Sabian wrestle.
Yes.
Right. But I'm willing to say, like, for 6 months, for a year, stop making me watch Kip Sabian wrestle. I'm willing to watch him again. Like, when they were building, I think it was in the video on the show, where Kip Sabian is like, well, the thing with me is I'm not even in my prime. And I was like, dude, that's not a selling point. Like, when you're in your prime, you're better.
But it's not a lie either. So I
No,
kind of,
it's not.
yeah.
But just like a weird thing.
I don't hate that. That is funny, but it is like, hey, It's not wrong.
No, but the guy's just not made at this point for 15 or 13 plus minute matches, especially these kind of slow matches with Dustin. They've got to figure out, and I don't know, after watching him for a year, they got to figure out what he's really good at already and have short matches that highlight that and get away from trying to make him something that he's not.
I think he's
So
been go ahead.
Sorry, I was just, I think we'll see a different side of him next week in the best friends match because it's no disqualification or whatever. The most interesting things that he's done have been just the blatant healing with Penelope as his second, and like that one moment in the Adam Page match where some guy was, razzing him or whatever, and he just gave him a kiss on the lips. So I'm interested when he breaks out of a straight ahead wrestling match and maybe gets a little more freedom to goof around and do, whatever bullshit brawl stuff through the, Nightmare Factory compound here. I think there's potential there to see a little more depth to him.
Yeah, I was going to say, basically, when they've used him on Dark as like a part of tag team stuff, like, 'cause I remember like he did a bunch of stuff with Hybrid 2 that was like, okay, like him and the part of like the scumbag trio actually really worked. And then him and Penelope, like I think Penelope is someone who's really she's really had to step forward in this time. And when he was playing her second, and when they kind of played on the idea of instead of like the vengeful girlfriend, instead it was like the scumbag boyfriend who's just seconder, I thought like that's great. So yeah, building off what Nate said, maybe with like this no DQ brawl kind of thing where, especially when you have like people like Dustin and Trent who are just incredible hardcore workers, like I don't think people really respect how much of a good plunder guy Chuck Taylor is. So like you have like that, and with like Jimmy Havoc, like that's probably like more the role. And maybe it's just like, okay, we had to do this and we try to add stakes to this match. We know what he is in these circumstances. So we're just going to give it a full effort here, but then we're going to gear him into the dirtbag Florida compound versus best friends. And that's what's going to happen. And I think that that's probably like the best avenue for success right now. He's not someone like Darby or Sami Callihan. Why Sami
Callihan?
Oh God, I have like sleaze wrestlers stuck in my brain right now. Sammy Guevara, who like you don't necessarily need to put them in the right scenario. You can have them be themselves, and that they build off that as himself. Maybe he needs like the avenue to kind of present himself, and maybe that's what this is.
What's your delete pick, Mike?
Oh, it was going to be Kip Sabian. I think.
Yeah. That really was the only really bad part of the show, in my opinion.
I will say something. I did not appreciate that MJF used a word that was censored on Shot of Brandy. On a Shot of Brandy, they refused to use the colloquialism rats, as I use quotation parts around it, and they censored it each and every single time. I did not appreciate that they felt like that. They were going to abandon that on television. I like to see some cohesion. I want to see like what their overall proof of concept is. And if you're going to censor it in one place, censor it in another place, and don't use that word. That word's mean.
Clearly, Brandy has higher standards than Tony Khan.
Apparently,
outclassing the man.
Yeah. Actually, no. Real delete. They did not show the best part of BT of Road 2, where they wanted to have Tony and Brandy and Britt. That was one of the funniest things they did on it. TV. Everyone go watch Road 2, where they had like the really awkward communication where Brandy tries to invite Tony onto a shot of Brandy, and then Britt immediately FaceTime, sees Brandy's there, cancels out of the call, and proceeds to like text him 29 times, and each of the notifications shows up on screen, and Brandy says it. Great bit, but yeah, good episode. I mean, like seriously, when all three of us are like, oh yeah, the main event Kip Sabian was like the one thing where we could point out. Overall, I think that means that this was a pretty strong episode of Dynamite.
Well, one other thing we can delete is basically try to go to the doctor right now at all. Like if you have any sort of illness or condition, it's probably the worst possible time to go to the doctor. Even before this, you would have to wait about 29 days in major U.S. cities to see a doctor. And if you're dealing with a condition like erectile dysfunction, you got to get treatment ASAP. And so that's why we have partnered up with our friends at Roman. They spent years building a digital platform that can connect you with a doctor licensed in your state, all from the comfort of home. So we're all doing like everything from home now, right? As best we can. I was just telling the guys before we started that I'm going to have to take some depositions from home by video. So if you need to go see a doctor, I know I've seen stuff about telemedicine, and this is a way for you to connect with a doctor for conditions like erectile dysfunction. So it's very convenient. You get the treatment you need on your schedule. All you got to do, you get your phone, your computer, you have a free online visit, and then you'll hear back from a U.S. licensed physician within 24 hours. So even with all this stuff going on, only 24 hours, you'll hear back from someone. If the doctor decides the treatment is right for you, Roman's Pharmacy will ship your medication to you with free 2-day shipping. You get free unlimited follow-ups with the doctor anytime you have questions or you want to adjust your treatment plan. There's no commitments. You don't have to sign up for a long-term thing. You can cancel anytime. So if you're struggling with ED, go to getroman.com/VOW, like Voices of Wrestling, for a free online visit, free 2-day shipping. That's getroman.com/VOW for a free online visit and free 2-day shipping. If it's something that you have an issue with and you want to support your favorite podcast network, just go hit up that URL, getroman.com/VOW, and we would appreciate it. So it's time for ratings talk. And honestly, I don't have ratings takes anymore. It's I don't know. So they're up this week, and I have no clue why. So they've gone from 683,000 to 731,000, flat in the demo, but up a little bit to 24th overall.
My only guess, I can't imagine that the wider viewing public bought into this stipulation, especially because this stipulation with Dustin Rhodes wasn't on the TV last week. There was no way that word got out to, attract significantly more viewers as we saw here. There is another guy that was on this show that is proving drawing power, as we've discussed. So I think it's that there was an Orange Cassidy match. I think people wanted to see Orange. That's my take.
That makes as much sense out of anything. Y'all know me. I like getting into the minutia, the granularity here. So I want to talk to y'all a little bit with one of this demographics. And just so y'all get to say, our dear listeners get a say of how just viewership is. I'm going to talk about the men 12 to 34, whereas AEW got a 0.14, NXT got a 0.06. And let me tell you what shows these equate to, just for fun, because, I'm trying to make fun of this here. So NXT in that demo had the exact same amount, at least to the 100th point, of House Hunters and CNN Newsroom given to that time. Whereas AEW is within 100th point of What We Do in the Shadows, which is a very charming show on FX that has Matt Berry, who's one of the funnier comedians working today. So that is my little corner that I wanted to give y'all of just to get a sense of what kind of population you're getting. You're getting so little young men watching the show, and AEW has like 2.5 times that amount at this point. And maybe young men like watching Orange Cassidy, as Nate said, like he's a very goofy person that I feel like that can make sense there. But that's what we're going to do until things get to normal and there's stuff they can really judge. I'm just going to pick a random demographic and like see what their comparables are. So NXT has House Hunters and Newsroom. AEW has What We Do in the Shadows.
You guys ever watch some House Hunters?
Oh, hell yeah.
Really? Do you enjoy it?
I mean, when I first discovered it, I thought it was pretty fun. Over time, it becomes pretty samey.
Yeah, it seems pretty deranged to me. I think because the people can't act, right? And it's all very clearly people coming in here and having to, do a whole fucking work about picking a house. I only ever see it at the car dealership when I'm picking my car in, and then you go and you sit in the waiting room and it's always fucking HD TV. Very, very odd and foreign to me, especially, and I have to imagine other millennials are like, this is insane. It's a lot like commercials are insane because I never see commercials. So the rare times I do watch television and have to see commercials, I'm like, this is like from another alien planet. Like, do people understand how bizarre just every tonal note of this is? And all those HGTV shows are just like commercials for 30 minutes to me. Anyway.
I've never seen it. I have family members that love having like a big backlog and then they'll have it on during the day as they do other things. So not my thing, but yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess having hunted for a house, it can have some things that are interesting about it. But the best thing about it, and there are like a million tweets about this, so I'm ripping off all those tweets, but it'll be like, I'm a artisanal pencil maker and I've got $3 million to spend. It's always, you don't know how they've gotten this money. And they're like 25 and they've got $1 billion to spend on a house. It's always funny.
Truly deranged.
Yeah. Do you ever watch like home improvement shows, Nate?
No, I don't have cable.
Okay.
But growing up, my older sister was really into like houses and designing houses and furnishing houses and all that stuff, and she works in that industry now. So HGTV was always on. So I have seen and encountered these things, the remodels and all this home makeover nonsense.
Yeah, SB's a big fan. There's one that's in like Mississippi, I think. And it's based out of there, and it's like couple. It's it's like the other one with the couple that I don't know the name of. But just
Property Brothers.
Well, I don't think they're a couple.
I don't know.
I think they're brothers.
One of them is engaged to Zoe Deschanel. So
this is so funny.
Incest is having a moment.
How? No, I was gonna.
They're step brothers. It's fine.
What are you doing, step bro?
Fucking remodeling a house. I don't know.
Wow. So speaking of NXT, it was down 692 to 665, but up in the demo slightly to a 0.18. So good for them. In AEW, I only have the last 3 episodes up, but it's their highest one in at least the last 4 weeks. So congratulations to our friend Tony Khan. All right, let's run down the results from this week's Dynamite. So it starts out, as I mentioned briefly earlier, with Cody, and he's at a desk in his very custom gamer chair, clearly with the American Nightmare logo on the back of the gamer chair. He's got some video screens, and he's commenting on all the other contenders who are in the TNT Championship tournament. He says, "So who am I?" It's a very reflective promo video for Cody. We hear Arn saying Cody needs the title. Some of these other guys just want it, but Cody needs it. And he asks, "Am I a mid-carder for life? Did I break the throne because I didn't want to sit in it?" Which I thought was a pretty good line. He asks if he's comfortable, talks about complacency being a dirty word in wrestling.
He also said 3-star general, I think. He
yes.
up the 3-star, which was I only am reminded of this because it was on BT this week, but that's something Kenny called him in the build-up to their feud.
Oh, that's good. That's good. He says there's plenty of will in the tournament. We're going to find out who has enough of it. So another example of them starting off the show differently. They did do videos the last 2 weeks, but they were Jake Roberts. So we see Cody, more build to this tournament. And I thought Cody did a good job here.
Yeah, this was a fun opening. I thought that was this goes into like how they're doing different things there. He really was hitting like the level between Christian Bale Batman and Naked Snake from Metal Gear Solid, which I think he probably was going more for the Metal Gear Solid thing, that of like at least the voice where he was trying to pull off his best David Hayter. But yeah, I thought this was an interesting thing, and I always find crazy whenever people try to like do their own version of like video surveillance graphics, which are never how like editing setup or anything looks like. So I always find that kind of funny, and that amused me greatly. But more envious of his chair. Maybe think I need to get a new chair. A new office chair. I've had this one for a long time. Don't know if I want to get a gamer chair though. Like, have either of you ever thought about getting a gamer chair, or is that just a bridge too far?
No, I have, because I've seen them on sale before, and I'm also as you all know, and we discussed a link on the show. I got a new chair at the office.
Right.
So my chair here at home, it offers pretty good support, but just the bottom cushion is starting to fray a bit, just from my years and years and years that I've had it. So when I've seen gamer chairs on sale, I've been like, well, I need a new chair.
Yeah.
And this is supposedly a good deal on a chair, but they do look really ridiculous.
Yeah. Like, I wonder if I should go for the gamer chair or get like the dumb Instagram advertising that just is like, oh, this is like the Casper pillow, but for your ass. And I'm wondering if that's just the route. Maybe that's all I need. But the gamer chair, if they actually made a gamer chair that did not look like it was someone who was playing Call of Duty for like $10,000, then I would maybe look into it.
Okay. I got a PlayStation. I got Resident Evil 2. I've been playing that. SB wants a Switch, but I am not getting a fucking gamer chair. I won't do it.
I'd have to try one. I'd have to get any gamer chair companies out there. Let us know.
Oh, absolutely.
If you customize the Cody chair, hit us up, because I want to do like a 60-day sample, just see is this all it's cracked up to be?
You know what you could even do? You could send it to me first, since I brought this up, the idea about having a new chair, and then we'll send it to Nate, and then you can send it back to me and Nate. We'll share it. I don't think Aaron.
Aaron, try it.
No,
You said.
Yeah, you just said
What
you
did you
didn't
just
want one.
say?
Yeah, come on.
I said you're not sitting in a fucking gamer chair.
I said I'm not getting a gamer chair. If one is given to me, I will try it out.
That's still getting. That's
Yeah,
still
it's still
receiving
getting.
the chair
Yeah.
if it's given to you.
The important part of this is, folks, very reasonable ad rates right now on this show. So if you want to give us a chair to try out, we'll talk about it on this show.
It could even have Cody's thumb logo on it. I'm not too special about this. I mean, but if you want to put like the E logo on that, it'd be even better.
Oh. I do need a new office chair. So the office chair that I have, I literally, when I first went out on my own, I rented an office and this chair was just in it when I showed up. And I've used it ever since. And it sucks. It's so bad. My back hurts most days. I really should get a nice office chair, but I'm always like, can think of other things to spend like $200 to $300 on rather than an office chair. So I never do.
I just think if it's called a gamer chair, it should have more ridiculous gamer components, add-ons. You know, I want like a Nintendo Power Glove built into the arm or something. Like
LED lights.
LED lights would be good if it had cooling fans.
Oh, absolutely.
Not even to cool you, just to cool the fan itself or the chair itself.
Yeah, right.
Would be good.
A fan for the fan?
If it's going to look so ridiculous, then I want it to have ridiculous features as well.
Yeah, like I remember one time when I was like in my preteen years going with my dad to the Lazy Boy store because he decided he wanted to get a Lazy Boy. And the stuff they had, at least in mid-90s chair tech, why aren't we seeing like the little mini fridge inside these gamer chairs? Like we should be able to have like a mini fridge. What if you should have like a water tank that like puts out filtered water for you? I drink liquids like a horse. I need to have that there and available for this. Why have we not reached that step? Gamer chair companies, come at us. We have ideas for you.
I feel like Razer and Monster Energy is just like a brand synergy waiting to happen.
Well, Razer's got the Kenny. I wonder if that was a Razer chair.
I think that was a DX Racer chair.
I mean, I have a Razer mouse and keyboard, so I'm here, Razer, if you're listening. Kenny, if you're listening, forward this to your guy.
So Chris Jericho was on commentary for this show again. Chris Jericho is like preternaturally good at commentary, right?
I don't know that I would call him good.
Oh, he's good.
He's very entertaining. He
hits the notes, though.
Accomplishes a lot. I guess he hits the notes.
He's charming.
I wouldn't want him on every show until the end of time. It would reach a breaking point for me, for sure.
Yeah, but like he tells the stories that he's trying to tell. I think like sometimes he's very obviously like, okay, these are my notes for this match. I want to make sure I get these points, but he like puts everybody over. He never buries anyone. And he's funny. I don't know. I think he's pretty enjoyable. Yeah, I probably don't want to hear it every week. But like, if I had to choose between Jim Ross and Chris Jericho every week, I'd take Chris Jericho.
I guess.
All right.
It super amused me when he said, "Oh, we've talked about possums before, or will in the future," because this was all pre-taped, and he allowed for the possibility that the possums discussion would air at a later date, and that was very funny to me.
There were a lot of good one-liners out of him this week. Like him talking about like a special drink that was just vodka on ice, and then possums. Like I have a lot of thoughts on possums to begin with, so I was very happy that he brought that up.
Well, look at the patreon.com/everythingelite for more of Mike's thoughts about possums.
Hey, possums are having a moment.
They are, just like incest. All right,
both those things are true. I asked Cara at some point in time, Cara, are possums having a moment? And she was like, yeah, actually they are.
Who did you ask to find out if incest was having a moment?
I don't think you need to ask. It's ubiquitous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that just me?
Buddy, that's your algorithm. Nobody else's.
I don't think it is. I'm pretty confident about this. I listen to enough podcasts that have brought up stepbrothers and stepsisters that I feel pretty confident in this one.
I feel very uncomfortable about this conversation.
This is like when the guy, I forget who it was, but some chud on Twitter who posted the thing and it had like a gay cruise ad. And he's like, I can't believe they're advertising gay cruises on this. And somebody's like, dude, those literally come from your search history. Very funny. Okay, Sammy hype video. He talks about that, of course, that he was in the very first AEW match against Cody. He says Darby. He says Darby paints his face because he's afraid to show who he really is, and Sammy's going to expose him. Mentions, of course, that Darby beat him at Revolution, but Sammy says he's going to win when it really matters the most. Plays up Chris Jericho being his mentor. This flows right into a Darby video where he's, just fucking around on his estate, and he says Darby and Sammy are more similar than Sammy knows, but he stands on his own 2 feet, unlike Sammy. We both need this more than the world will ever know. But when I kill that dream of you winning, I'll feel so alive. And all these lines sound really cheesy when I repeat them, but Darby says them so earnestly that it's wonderful. It's just charming, and you believe it.
Yeah, thank God he's not doing go stand in the ring and talk straight ahead to camera promos like he would be doing anywhere else. Like they've gotten his pre-tape stuff to a pretty good spot for his skill set.
Yeah, he should probably never cut an in-ring promo. He should just do videos forever. But we'll see. Okay, then of course, as we mentioned earlier, Darby Allin defeated Sammy Guevara with the Last Supper. So I was pretty terrified when he locked in the Last Supper because he, of course, could not pin Chris Jericho with it.
Cody
with it.
No, Cody was in commentary because Cody didn't know the name of the move.
Right,
and that's what was annoyed me.
Yes, and I was irritated. I was like, irritated before it even happened, thinking they're killing the Last Supper. But he actually won with the Last Supper, so I was happy instead. Here's why Jericho's great on commentary. He says, "Why do we have barricades even though there's no fans? So you can set up ladders." I mean, like that's great storytelling right there.
It's a direct response to Jim Ross.
Yeah. He said that a couple times during the episode, which makes me wonder how many times he's brought up both him bringing up that and then also bring up possums throughout this recording. Like over the 3-day period, was he just going on about barricades and possums? Like I would love to know like the actual shooting order of all this at this point, just to know, like, did he have like one day where he's just fixated on possums and that's why, and the next day he was like, oh, I brought up possums a whole lot, I brought barricades a whole lot. I guess that's what I was on yesterday.
I guess that also means they're not recording these all in one big block. Like they're coming back because this seems a reaction to the Moxley Hager match. Of course, he could have seen that previously, I suppose, before we saw it.
Right. Yeah. Or hard to say because in terms of the commentary, because it seems like a reaction to that, but then he also referenced, of course, the possum conversation that happens on another show. So they were definitely taped in a block at some point, but I guess after the Ross commentary had been laid down.
And there definitely have been some more points over the last few weeks where you can notice edits too and dubs. So it could be something where he redubbed a line after it and like sent them in the line. Because you could really notice it sometimes with Tony. Like you could tell like his volume is different and like the background audio is a little different sometimes for some of his lines he delivers.
And for sure they're plugging in stuff like here's another Bubbly Bunch segment or whatever, because they're they've done those at some other point.
Then we got a video with broken Matt Hardy. He says 2 weeks ago he laid out a challenge to Chris Jericho to come to the Hardy compound for the Elite Deletion, but Jericho hasn't responded. In fact, only Sammy Guevara has mentioned his name. He says, "I welcome you to the compound, Sammy, but I will sentence you to deletion." And then suddenly he switches to just regular Matt Hardy. I don't know if there was a line here that I missed that set this up, because honestly, I did tune out a little bit when he started talking about his essence.
He actually explicitly said, "I understand some people think broken Matt Hardy is too intense or over the top or whatever, so I'll let you speak to someone else." Of course, he has established in the Broken Universe lore that this new spirit persona
essence,
this new essence, thank you, that is embodying him, Damascus, has the ability to switch between personas at will, so Matt Hardy can coexist along with broken Matt Hardy. So he's paying dividends on that lore that he laid down. And he was like, remember when he was like a really bad promo? Remember the Edge feud when he was like turn off the channel promo?
Angelic Diablo. Oh yeah. No, like him switching over to this was great. And I actually remember the Damascus thing before, but even though I was kind of zoned out, I was like, oh, I guess he's making Damascus like go away, I guess, or whatever for this. But yeah, no, I thought that he had like this, and he's definitely someone that over this, maybe it is him doing stuff with Peabody Award winner Nick Searcy has taught him how to cut like a normal promo. Because it does feel about like at the point of the Kingdom was when he actually learned how to cut great promos. So I'm going to say that.
Once he switched over, he said he's known Chris Jericho for a long time. And Jericho was really mad when Hardy showed up to have the Bucks back. But he explains, of course, that the Bucks are his good friends. I did like this because he's like, the Bucks, they're my good friends. Kenny, he's my good friend. Cody, I know him. That was funny. So
then he's like, also, they're very powerful people. I want to be aligned with the people with all the stroke in this promotion.
Right. And he explains, of course, that that's why Chris Jericho was mad, because he knows that if he knocks out the pillars of AEW, the elite, he can create chaos and fill that vacuum. I thought this was like an interesting way to tell this story. And then he says, AEW is not a platform for Chris Jericho or even for Matt Hardy. It's for the future of our business, and I'm here to protect that future. So he says he'll kick Sammy's ass, every ass in the inner circle, until he gets to Chris Jericho.
Yeah, great. Laid down his motivation there. Totally works.
Yeah, this was great. I guess hats off to Tony Khan. He just sees something that everybody hates and just cuts it out immediately. So,
or it's more like re-gearing it this time. It's like, hey, I'll still have this aspect, but I'll also be willing to do this because, like, there is like the appeal of people who love it. I mean, there are people who love like the broken brilliance thing, but also realizing, hey, there are as many people that just want to have like straight ahead stuff and realizing that they can kind of toe the line with both. I think it's a pretty smart move.
Yeah, because this match, when it happens, is like a serious match. It's a real thing. It's not a silly little match between Matt Hardy and Orange Cassidy or whatever. It's like something that has real heft to it. So it's good that they're going to have him. If he wants to do both, that's fine. But for this specific match, he's got to be a little more serious about it.
Now, I do want to see Adam Page respond and be like, beginning of these pandemic shows, I came out and confirmed to Cody and Matt Jackson and Kenny that I was with them and I was going to be in this match with them. And now Matt Hardy is just looking right past me. He made no mention of me whatsoever. Obviously doesn't respect me. Explicitly shouted out that he respects Kenny Omega and made no mention of me as tag team partner. So I want to see Adam Page get a little thorn in his side about that.
Yeah, that'd be good. I would like to see Hangman Page and Matt Hardy throw some promos at each other. I think that could be pretty funny. I would enjoy that. And Matt Hardy, of course, is someone who has recently gotten a job here with AEW. If you are looking for people to hire, we got just the place for you. ZipRecruiter. I want to talk to you real quick about ZipRecruiter. You know, hiring is challenging. Right now, maybe it's probably more challenging than it's been in some time. Although I don't know, there's a lot of candidates out there if you are looking for people. So if you are a growing business and you're looking to connect to qualified candidates, you can check out ZipRecruiter.com/VOW. The way it works is you set up your job on ZipRecruiter. They send that job out to over 100 of the web's leading job sites, but that's not where they stop. They have a powerful matching technology. So ZipRecruiter will scan the resumes that come in to find people with the right experience and invite them to apply to your job. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And again, right now, lots of quality candidates out there. So plenty of people will be seeing your job listing, especially if you put it on ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Everything Elite listeners can go to ZipRecruiter.com/VOW, just like Voices of Wrestling. That's ZipRecruiter.com/VOW, ZipRecruiter.com/VOW, the smartest way to hire. Okay, after this, we had another Taz video breaking down moves, but this time he's breaking down the V-trigger and Kenny Omega's Snapdragon suplex. And at the bottom, we get the good old "Don't try this at home" fine print.
I love the segment, and I want him to cover the Gale lock. I need to know if it's a trap hold or if it's actually a pressure point hold. But I think this is like a great use of Taz, especially now that Taz is not able to be there right now. Like, have him just record a VO, like going over people's moves. And the fact that he brought up the V trigger, boy, did that play into discourse today. So yeah, I thought this was great.
All right, let me kill all the discourse havers.
It's dumb. It's dumb.
Kenny Omega defeated Alan Angels, V-trigger, after a powerbomb. Okay. First of all, we're in a pandemic, and there's like 10 wrestlers. Okay. So first of all, you got to stretch some things out. We've talked about it on this very show. But second of all, what on earth is this going to do to affect anyone's view of Kenny Omega except the dumb people who already hate Kenny Omega? There is no through line between this match and people being like, oh, actually, Kenny Omega is not a very compelling wrestler. Like, that's not happening. Nobody's watching these shows. There's not a bunch of casual wrestlers or casual fans watching these shows. But even if there were, there's a lot of things that AEW has done that I think has diminished Kenny Omega's star power. But this was not one of them. And Dave Meltzer, right, as always, plenty of baby faces who have done squashes in a way where they want to build up the job guy so it looks like they're beating someone of value. Whereas you see Wardlow's squashes on these shows, he never lets them get much of anything. And that makes much more sense for a heel than it does for a baby face. So nothing wrong with this match. It was good. He finished him with a V trigger, which is not a finisher generally. Everybody always complains he doesn't beat people with V triggers. Then he does, and they complain.
I mean, it's kind of silly to even weigh in on it because it's, of course, all people arguing in bad faith who, like you said, already hate Kenny Omega in the first place. So it's like, why even pretend that they're offering this as an honest criticism? But when this whole complaint about it reminded me of like the Lions Gate shows that were happening. Remember when Daisuke Sekimoto wrestled in New Japan against, like, I don't know, the Great O'Karn, or maybe it was fucking Umino or somebody like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, he doesn't go out and squash him in 3 minutes because he's like a world champion and the other guy's a young lion. Like, doesn't hurt Daisuke Sekimoto. The point is like, hey, this is a learning wrestler. This is an up and coming wrestler. I'm going to go have a contest with him. Same thing that Kenny Omega, I'm sure, did at the Lions break show against David Finlay when David Finlay was a young lion. It's like, he's not there to break the guy's spirit like Wardlow is.
Yeah.
Right? He's there to have a contest with the guy. And if, he can teach the guy something while he's at it, all the better.
Yeah. And I mean, historically, if it's like the babyface traveling champion, they come into the town and they make your local guy look better. And it's like a thing that's happened since time immemorial. So like, yeah, no, anyone who's arguing about this usually is arguing from bad faith. So just hand wave them.
Yeah, that's all true. It's
dumb.
Irritates me.
It's dumb. And
I'm easily irritated though. So
right, yeah, and like, of course, like the same thing is if Kenny Omega looks in the wrong direction at some people, they're going to completely act up here. So it's just like a lot of bad faith from a lot of different angles. Like if this was Chris Jericho having a match with someone that he gave them a little bit more, and instead of like beating them in 2 minutes, he beat them in 5, we would not be hearing about this whatsoever. Like it's the unique storm of it being Kenny Omega, a lot of people who dislike Kenny Omega, and like the situation here and the fact that it's a face doing this, that people are putting up like a argument where, in complete honesty, like we'll forget about this next week.
Now, I do want to say, in the interest of full disclosure, if all these annoying people had already not complained about this, I definitely would have come on the show today and been like, oh, you should have beaten him faster. That for sure would have been my take if it hadn't already been a take.
I mean, okay, here's the thing, and I've complained about these type of matches on this show before. I definitely, as it was going, I was like, he's probably getting a little too much offense. But the people who extrapolate that into being like, this is another example of Kenny Omega always having to be excessive in matches, I just don't think that has anything to do with what we saw. And then when you stretch that into, this is killing Kenny Omega's star power, it's like,
this is killing the business.
Yeah, get a grip.
It's like, yeah, maybe you should, have a little faith in the only people that have managed to become self-made stars outside of the WWE in the last decade, that they maybe know a little bit more about the contemporary business than, anyway.
Well, hey, did you watch the very first match on this show? Did you see Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara stars anywhere else before they showed up in this company? I mean, there's been plenty of stuff that I've criticized here on Everything Elite because I think they've made missteps. But like a 6-minute match is just not one to. We've spent too much time talking about it at this point. But
we honestly, what we just did, we gave all the haters too much offense, is what we just did in this segment.
We should have squashed them. You're right.
Squashed them.
Right.
They're done. We're done here.
Knock them out in 90 seconds, and that be it.
All right, giving an F10 to the haters on the next episode. Here was the Scorpio Sky video that we mentioned earlier. He says he's always loved wrestling, always wanted to be a wrestler. Talks about how in 2008, 2009, he had a back injury and doctors told him he wouldn't be able to wrestle anymore. But then it miraculously went away. I really wanted him to talk about like using crystals or some shit. And like, that's what solved his back problems.
Be like Chris Cuomo's wife and have like the crazy like energy chamber, like using the breathing test thing as a way to expand his lungs, and it puts more and the lungs provide more relief to his back muscles. Like there are a lot of different ways you could have gone with this that I think would have been really funny.
I'm guessing Scorpio is one of those like, actually I prayed this back injury away. I'm kind of guessing that's where he comes down, but he didn't say that in the promo. He says he had a lot of opportunities, but never really made it, was kind of thinking about getting out of the business, decided he was going to give it one more chance. And in December 2017, SCU was formed. And then we got To Be Continued on the screen. Effective little video.
Yeah, that was solid.
Reminding us of old Scorpio. Chris Jericho, every time Scorpio comes on the show, Chris Jericho does a tweet. Or no, Jim Ross does a tweet. I think Scorpio Sky is going to be a big star. Then we got a video recapping the Dustin voicemail promo from Road 2. So it wasn't the full video, but we saw some of Dustin's voicemail where he says he's going to retire if he loses to Kip Sabian. This fed into Orange Cassidy defeating Jimmy Havoc. It was a distraction finish. Penelope and Kip tried to get involved and kind of went awry, and Orange was able to get the victory.
There was a flash pin. There was a flash pin.
Flash pins. And a Last Supper on the same show, which is kind of a flash pin.
Yeah, no, I'm having a great time with all these flash pins and pinholds here. Like, bring them back. Got to have more flash pins. Everyone on this roster should have their own kind of flash pin that gets over. Like, there's a lot of it. Like, let's do this.
Darby is like uniquely situated to have a flash pin finish, and that he's usually smaller than the other guy. Like, I thought that worked so well for him in Evolve, where it would be a guy who was either bigger or a better wrestler or both, and like a better technical wrestler, and he would just find a way to snap this in. And it's just a great way for him to get wins.
Well, and this is what I always talk about in terms of just Darby's work, is that he does a great job of like using the momentum of his entire body in his offense to like, he rolls away from people, or he like flings off onto the ropes and slingshots back in to do shit. Or even the coffin drop is like, I'm using my literal entire body on this. And that's why it's perfect for the Last Supper, because he gets literally the entire leverage of his body onto the pin with that leg hold that he does. So it's awesome. Also awesome in this match is it was set up with Darby doing a springboard, and then Sammy caught him on his shoulders for the finish, right? Which is like, Tony said, oh, you went for a coffin drop there, which is like, no, he was going for a flying nothing because he was going to get reversed into the sketch. But that is the benefit of the Last Supper also, is that he's not doing anything. So it actually kind of works.
After the match, Jimmy Havoc attacked Orange, but the Best Friends intervened, and this was setting up what's going to be on Dynamite next week, which will be Jimmy and Kip taking on the Best Friends. That was announced after the main event. We got an MJF video. So again, they're kind of bringing back some people who we haven't really seen. That was good. He says, we live in depressing times because MJF hasn't wrestled on Dynamite in weeks. Talks about how in his last appearance, while gambling, he suffered a hangnail, but he fought through that, was able to continue gambling. And due to his inability to quit gambling, the hangnail injury became life-threatening. But he promises his fans he will be back.
Okay, I figured out my MJF comparison point. So I've said he's like a guy that was like raised on a diet of like 80s WWF heel promos and just like internalize those. The comp here is it's like Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk or like Jacob Wool, who grew up on a steady diet of just like bad faith Republican bullshit, but like internalized it to the point where they actually believe it's true and they don't understand that it's all a grift and a lie to, gain power and dominance and then assert it. So that's what MJF is like. He's like, if you actually came up believing everything that these WWF promos by the heels were about, this is the person you grow into.
It's actually a really fascinating point, because I think about wrestlers in the 80s were all like football players, meatheads, who this was just the next thing to do. And it was like, you did just enough to get by and get your money, and you didn't do anything on the road on like house shows, but when you showed up at the big show, you had to do your thing. And then the wrestlers of today have missed all that in a lot of ways and have been like, no, like it's not a work. It's actually you go out and you do everything you can every time. You got to be the best bout machine at all times. And similarly, you had the Republicans of the 80s, 90s, even pretty recently, who were, as you said, it was all just a grift and they were playing a character. But then all the dumb people like won races.
Your Paul Ryans came up believing this to be the actual policy.
Yeah. Like these people didn't realize that Lee Atwater was pulling a grift his entire career in the 80s, leading up to get George H.W. Bush in office. And like he was playing a grift on like how much do you all know about Lee Atwater? Like people look up Lee Atwater. Like he was like one of the original Republican grifters. And now all these people like think like, no, he truly believed in it when no, Lee Atwater just believed in what he was going to do to make money. So yeah, I totally think that's a relevant point.
I mean, I think that's the nickname, right? He's the Jacob Wool of AEW. They're both like 22, 23 years old.
Oh, have you heard the story about his dad's company?
Jacob Wool's or MJF's?
MJF's.
No.
So like there was like this big scandal, and he's talked about this. Like his dad does like the paleo bagel that like he found. Like he basically no. This gets more wild.
That can't be real.
No, it's legit. Like search the paleo bagel, the bagel. But like the thing is that happened was so this happened, and then like there was like a big like drama about this. Like he has like this mail order paleo bagel business, but the original recipe was like from like a special book for people who are trying to eat like a paleo diet and like learning how to do this. And then like he did not credit whoever like did this, like whoever like came up with this recipe, and then turned into like a certain thing. Like if you just like search like paleo bagel drama on like your Google, if you Bing it or go Duff or whatever that one is, but if you ever do this, like there is like stuff there. It's like you're not too far about saying the Jacob Wool thing, you know.
I typed in just paleo bagel because I didn't even think that existed. But so this would have no gluten, grains, or dairy. What the fuck is the point of a bagel?
It uses like arrowroot flour, I think.
This is disgusting. This makes me sick. That's all.
Yeah. But you know, no, Nate really hit the nail on the head there. Like,
nice job, Nate.
As my career point was, there's a lot of similarities there.
Next up, speaking of squashes, Wardlow defeated the returning Lee Johnson with the F10. Okay. Wardlow. Wardlow. We got a Dark Order video. We see Brody Lee across the table from someone. He's having a meeting. Before this, we've seen someone in a dark room, like putting in a request on the Dark Order website to join. Brody asked him how tall he is, how much he weighs. Did he play college football? So, he's continuing with the Vince McMahon isms. He says, a lot of people around here are afraid of success. I want to offer you success and strength in numbers. We are the Lions of AEW. He pushes a mask across the table and tells the unnamed person, you are home now. You are one of us. You are Dark Order. We learned later from Brody's tweets that it was Preston Vance, the QT Marshall trainee who was on, I think, Dark a few weeks ago.
Yeah. I thought it was funny how now they're getting deep into the canon enough that they made sure to say that he was a former football player and was 6'2" and 240 pounds. Like that they've already hit the main big ones. Now they're going to flesh this out with Mr. Brody Lee. Hopefully next is going to be the steak wrap.
So I like it. They gave him a number because the Dark Order guys just get numbers. So he's number 10, and I like that gimmick, but Preston Vance is like a pretty good FCW NXT name, so you're losing a little something if you take that away from him, because that does sort of complete the illusion of like, oh, this is, some football washout that Vince is going to, fire in 2 years before he ever makes NXT television, except maybe getting squashed by, I don't know, Samoa Joe.
They finally like flesh this out. They're finally starting to make sense of Brody's take on the Dark Order to where you finally bring in like a fucking former college football player who's like a good-looking guy, good body. But in this case, he's actually a pretty decent worker, at least in the one match we saw. But it's like, okay, now you're really bringing together what we're supposed to find here. So I'm enjoying that.
And they even made a little joke of this, that now he is number 10, I guess. Like they made a big deal like that he's like before where it was like 7 and 8, where the Creepers, now he's referred to as 10. So I thought that was kind of funny. I saw that Sean Spears wasn't too pleased about that.
And then after that, we saw Brody Lee defeating Justin Law with the lariat. After the match, Brody walked up to Marco and looked at him, but then he turned around and walked away. We found out later they are going to face off. And I think that's going to be on next week's episode.
Yeah, it's on next week's episode. Brutal finish. Like they've really gotten the big truck stop lariat. Like he's turned it now into like readapted it into this new character, and it just looks brutal with like the ripcord or I don't even know what it's not even like the ripcord. It's like he does it from the Sister Abigail position, but I don't even know what you would call it. Like the dipping, rotating discus lariat, I guess maybe. But yeah, no, it was good. Like they made a big note of how he's only had 5 minutes worth of matches so far. And I guess this one was like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So it'll be interesting. Like how many wins can he rack up before he has more than 30 minutes of ring time?
Yeah, they did. So he's doing that continuity with the Sister Abigail. They also had the little whole world in our hands reference in the pre-tape video with Preston Vance. So just appreciate that to make it seem like there's some sort of cohesion in pro wrestling. A little annoyed with Jericho here because he calls it a clothesline. He's like, oh, he beat him with a clothesline. But then is like makes a Stan Hansen reference. It's like, come on, Chris. Like Stan Hansen didn't call it a clothesline. Goddamn.
Right. Yeah, that's an easy one. And it shows he's not watching the product because Cody's been talking about clotheslines versus lariats for weeks on commentary. Then we got the interview that Nate was talking about earlier with the best friends and Orange Cassidy in a gym, which we saw later in the show too. And I can't remember who else we saw in the gym. Dustin maybe was in the gym. Trent says, do I want to fight Penelope Ford? Yes, but I can't. So I'll fight her boyfriend and Jimmy Havoc for some reason.
Oh, man, I laughed.
That was good. And Chuck gets on the mic. He says, when Trent's quiet, that means you're going to die.
Just like a really well done 1 minute backstage promo. Like it popped you, got over what's going to happen next week. Like these are like the little things that like add up that I feel like that they've had like enough variety of everything now that you have like this one backstage promo and it was pretty effective versus like the preview promos that we had before. Then
there was a Bubbly Bunch video. Sammy said he acknowledges it hasn't really been going that well for them lately, especially since Jake Hager didn't win last week. And Hager reminds him not to be sad. That's for ugly people. And Jericho says, we're going to do what we do anytime we're feeling down. We're going to dance. How about a flim flam video? Sammy says he's too sad. He's lounging. He's feeling very bad. He's lying on the floor. Jericho says that he's going to offer hand sanitizer to the winner, and that perks up Sammy immediately. And so we all see them doing a dance. It's like a TikTok send up here. And everybody's doing their dances. Sammy dances, but also does flips. This really irritates Chris Jericho that everyone was very impressed with Sammy's flips. He says, enjoy the hand sanitizer, Sammy.
First off, they made sure that this was not affiliated with TikTok, which I love that disclaimer. And I do have a point of contention here. Catalina Hager told us that Jake could not go home unless he was a winner. And we saw a follow-up of that, of her shutting him out at home. Are we to believe that Chris Jericho was being the nice friend and let Jake Hager stay at his house? Because I have questions.
He did make a follow-up tweet. Okay. I think that was just I jumped the fence or something. So
all right,
he put a little bit of effort to say she didn't let me home, but he literally said I jumped the fence. I'm in the backyard and I'm still a winner.
There we go. I'm just glad. I don't want to have discrepancies here. Like I appreciate that they kept up the continuity here.
The little bit of it wasn't a stipulation. It was just something she said offhand in a promo package, but they made it a little fun for us. So
yeah, for those of us who watch all this content, we really appreciate it. It pays off. There's a video next typing up the Dustin Kip Sabian match. Dustin says, none of these guys can do anything I haven't seen in my 33 years in the ring. Talks about how winning this title would really cement his legacy, but that he isn't overlooking Kip. And this is where Kip does the bit about all these guys are in their prime, the best of their career. I'm dangerous because I haven't hit my prime yet, which I don't think that's how danger works, but sure. I guess you could tie it in and say, I'm willing to try out things that might be wilder than other people will because I know I'm not on their level yet, but he didn't really go there.
Well, and we know Dustin's not. We know he's on the downslide from his prime. He's post-prime.
We gotta stop pretending that Dustin is better than he's ever been. That's like a bizarre thing to say. He's over 50 years old.
Yeah, especially after this match he had.
Yeah, I mean, he's really good. I'm enjoying him in this promotion. Right. But let's be serious here. You also I know they've kind of gone
Like
far
it
away.
was also, like he got in really good shape. Like I don't know, 4 years ago now. So even if he was in the best shape that he's ever been, if that's the line, like he was in this good shape 4 years ago when he was also 4 years younger.
Right. And if you're going to even hint at the real sports type stuff, only Julio Franco was this good at 51. So it's like maybe get away from claiming that he's as good as he's ever been. They also apparently hadn't come up with the retirement stipulation yet because that wasn't mentioned at all in this video going in, which I thought was funny. And then Dustin Rhodes defeated Kip Sabian, which we've discussed, with a Canadian destroyer that he calls a Code Red.
Yes, and that gets me very, very mad. You knew I was going to jump on this immediately. There is the Code Red and the Yoshi Tonic. They were developed at the same time by two people who did not know of each other. This was not a Code Red or a Yoshi Tonic. Call it the Austin Destroyer or whatever, but it's not a Code Red or a Yoshi Tonic. Thank you. Sorry about the interjection.
No, and they were also, Jericho's like, oh, well, he hasn't been doing that move. You know, he's like, oh, he calls that the Code Red. He hasn't been doing that. It's a new addition to his arsenal. He was doing that 4 years ago on Raw when he was, you know, had his little return run. So just not also not accurate.
He's also
he was doing the code. He wasn't doing the driver. He was actually doing a Code Red.
He's also done the destroyer in like every AEW match he's had.
Yeah.
That's been like a huge spot for him. So anyway.
It's a huge spot for every old guy. Easy pop.
Well, they should have retired it after Ricky Morton did it because it can never be better.
I mean, I kind of like the Indies sort of decided, not together as a unit, but independently. Everybody like kind of phased out the destroyers because there was that period where every match had 3 destroyers in it, and then the Indies kind of stopped that.
Now they're all doing reverse Ranas
because people weren't getting tired of them really yet.
Yeah,
they were still over. They were still getting big pops, but it is, you know, this is maybe the first time since Petey Williams anyone's actually won a match with him.
Yeah, it seemed like they all decided to start doing reverse Ranas instead. Like that kind of became the next move for a while.
Much higher degree of difficulty on the reverse Rana.
Yeah. And maybe we should just let, if you qualify for AARP, you get to do the destroyer. If you're younger than that, you do a reverse Rana. Like that, those are the rules. Like if Mike Jackson wants to do a Canadian destroyer, have at it, dude. Like you're more than welcome to. If not, can't do the destroyer. You have to have your AARP card.
Fair.
As you both know, I've been watching a lot of Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Right, yeah.
And speaking of Dustin, here's a move I want to see come back. The Bulldog. More Bulldogs in wrestling.
Huh. Kenny's Kotaro Crusher is kind of a bulldog. He just like vaults him first.
Yeah. I mean, formerly known as Zack Ryder had the Rough Rider, which is the leg bulldog. I see Dragon Kid do it all the time. You're just watching wrestling that doesn't have bulldogs in it, man. It's out there.
No. Well, I mean, Smoky Mountain Wrestling has bulldogs in it. Robert Gibson won a match with a bulldog, by God.
You see, like I was preparing myself to maybe go watch a Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but now you said that's the one to win a match of a bulldog. That's just, come on.
Okay, I don't want to blow my load on here instead of doing
Thank
it on
you
my.
So much. Really appreciate you not blowing your load on here.
This has been a weirdly horny episode, so like.
I want to save it for my Smoky Mountain podcast, but it's not a wrestling promotion. It's a talking promotion. If you're only in it for moves, you are not going to like this promotion. Period.
And you know me, I love moves.
Yeah, Smoky Mountain's probably not for you, Mike.
That's fair.
But I am going to be doing the Smoky Mountain podcast on our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/everythingelite. It's not out yet, so don't rush over all at once, but it will be out soon. This week on the Patreon, the whole crew got together for the Terrace House party, including the debut podcast appearance of SB, my wife.
My wife.
Very
sorry.
Your voice cracked like a little bit when you said my wife, and it was very funny.
It was very close to saying it, so I did complete that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it was good.
We rank some Terrace House guests. It was fun.
So we did power rankings of the first 3 episodes of the most recent season of Terrace House. We heard some pretty good feedback on it. I thought it was fun, and we'll be back doing more of this. It's going to be a little mini series. We also, of course, had AW Light. All 3 of us are on that show, of course. And we did that this week. We're going to do that next week. We're going to do that forever until we die.
Until the heat death of the universe, or we die. One way or the other.
I know I teased this last week, but seriously, on Monday, we're going to put up the Patreon episode that features me talking with Maxwell RBR from Twitter He was formerly the booker of freelance wrestling in Chicago. We talk about his time booking that, his kind of theories on booking. Some interesting stuff about like how you become friends with people and then you have to have them lose matches or stop booking them and how awkward that can be. And so I thought it was really interesting. So I'm excited for people to hear it. So check out patreon.com/everythingelite. We got 3 tiers and they're all good. But it's getting close to the end of the month. So you can wait till May 1 because you will get charged when you sign up. And again, on the 1st of the month. But you sign up now, you get everything we've ever done on Patreon. So still a good value. Okay. Next week, April 29th, they're going to be at an undisclosed location again. I'm not sharing where they are like you two. It's embarrassing. It's dangerous. People are just going to show up. Next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, somebody's going to show up and run in the building.
Remember, you guys ever hear that story of the woman, I believe, came over from Japan and went to Minnesota to find the fortune that was buried in the end of the movie Fargo and froze to death trying to find the fictional fortune?
No, I didn't know that happened.
I was thinking about this the other day because, at the beginning of Fargo, they put up that it's based on a true story, which is not at all true. It's just total fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like, if of course, would never have been foreseeable to the filmmakers, but them doing that little joke was like, oh no, a woman came over and died because she went and tried to find that fictional treasure.
Are you their lawyer saying wasn't foreseeable?
Not reasonably foreseeable, no. Los Coens Inocente.
All right, but next week, April 29 on Dynamite, here's the stuff that we know. We're going to get both the semifinal matches in the TNT Championship Tournament. So Kobe is going to take on Darby Allin. Lance Archer will take on Dustin Rhodes. I think this is fascinating because the final was supposed to be on Double or Nothing, right?
So, it's still supposed to be. They haven't moved it.
So they're just going to build that match for 3 weeks, I guess?
Yeah, 3-week build for a pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess, especially assuming it's going to be Lance Archer versus Cody. There's plenty of stuff to be done.
Yeah, and great if they're not wrestling, because then you want to see them wrestle because you haven't seen them wrestle in a while, so you pay to see them wrestle. It's like it's like pro wrestling.
Huh. It's also, I love that the Cody versus Darby Allin thing, because before he hits that thing where he's going to feud with Sammy on top for many years, he's going to have to finally overcome Cody. So I'm looking forward to that happening one day.
Could be Wednesday.
It could be. I'd be pretty surprised, but I guess it could be.
I'll put it out here. I think a more interesting match, even though they've built it, will be Darby Allin versus Lance Archer than Cody versus Lance Archer.
Probably a better match. Yeah.
But the Lance Archer Cody
not
match
a bigger
is
match.
Built.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be a better match, a more interesting match.
Sure.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm into the Cody versus Lance Archer story. Like it's interesting to me. I'm compelled.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna see Brody Lee.
Doesn't quite strike you with that that real sort of fire that a good Jake Hager feud does for you, Aaron?
No. If Jake Hager were in this semifinal and about to take on Lance Archer, I would probably be pretty worked up about it. Right now.
Losing it. Yeah.
They always get me. In the Jake Hager match. I think back to that like series that Jake Hager had with Rusev when I just thought it's time to pull the trigger on fucking Jake Hager and make him the world champion.
And this was after he was a world champion.
Yeah, but he was
and tested positive and was shuffled down the card, never to be trusted again.
He was so over during that little feud though. They did the classic like American versus foreign heel, and it was. I need to go back and watch those and see if they were actually any good. I'm not going to go back and watch those, but I should. Brody Lee's going to take on Marco Stunt, so they're kind of bringing us back to when Marco had a similar match with Lance Archer, so we'll see how that plays in here, but should be fun. We'll get to, hopefully Marco takes a better bump off the lariat than he did on the pounce. And a no DQ match, the Best Friends taking on Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. Certainly Orange Cassidy and Penelope Ford will be involved. Hopefully this will not be a 15-minute main event.
No, I guess probably Cody and Darby's main event, right?
I mean, yeah.
Kind of their most stacked show from these pre-tapes. No jobber matches here, right?
I mean, there'll probably be 2 jobber matches because they've been like having 6 matches and then the rest, the ones are jobber matches. But yeah, no, this is a pretty stacked one. I'm gonna look through my notebook to see which one that maybe had a higher card here. But at least in my opinion, this is
kind of just by a fair margin, excepting maybe that first Daily Place show with the debuts and shit. But
they're definitely cutting up these matches out of order, right? They didn't like film these episodes. And
right. I mean, the first Daily Place match, you had the Elite versus Inner Circle to decide the Blood and Guts one. Butcher and Blade versus Jurassic Express. You had the 4-way women's match. Hey, remember when we used to have like Chris Statlander and Riho on shows?
Remember when we had women on these shows having matches?
I saw discourse looking at our account about like, oh, very funny that no one complains that Nyla Rose never shows up to defend her title when everybody complained that Riho never showed up to defend her title. And it's like, there is, again, kind of a pandemic occurring. Kind of extenuating circumstances. You kind of have to let some of this stuff slide.
Oh, there was a guy on March 25th who I forgot their name, but it's Chico Adams. We have not had Chico Adams around in a while.
I did not even remember that.
I think Chico Adams might have been on a WWE show since then. I think he was also an enhancement talent on a WWE show.
Well, there we go. We had the Cody and Darby versus Sean Spears and Sammy Guevara match on that one show that also had Kenny Omega versus Trent and Hikaru Shida versus Anna Jay. Yeah, no, I'm looking at this now, and this next week feels like the biggest one. And this is why I have the notebook.
I don't need the notebook. I could just feel it in my bones that this was the big card.
I have a bird brain, so I need to have things written down.
But I got one more thing to talk about before we go.
Swerve.
Chris Hero was released this week.
Yeah.
WWE. Mm-hmm. Any interest in seeing Chris Hero in All Elite Wrestling?
We did discuss this because I did pitch that I would like to see him in the context of a reunited Big in USA tagging with Colt Cabana.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess that's the show, everybody.
But no, Chris Hero, especially like I floated out the tweet of the idea of a wrestling school that's based around Chris Hero, Chris Daniels, Emi Sakura, Shima, and QT, and you have a really strong school there. I think that especially given where they are and given what they need to be doing in the future, Chris Hero is definitely someone to have. And I mean, I think like we should have Chris get him out of the dry fits, just have him be like in his tights and just going at it. I think just see what happens with Chris Hero. Like I'd be interested in seeing Chris Hero versus Darby, like today's Darby versus Chris Hero, like stuff like that. I'm really stoked by.
I would be really interested to see if they put Chris Hero on Dynamite and use his theme music without clearing the sample from Clint Mansell.
Yeah.
That seems like it's within the realm of possibility that they'd be like, oh yeah, that's your song. You've had that song. We'll put that on. We're not worried about copyright or whatever or contracts. I think that's within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I think what happened was the first time we talked about Chris Hero, he had the Cassius Ohno stink all over him. So I wasn't really that invested. But once he posted that video where he kind of buried Cassius Ohno and just the Chris is awesome hit, I was like, oh yeah, this dude rules. And I'm excited to see him wrestling in a real promotion again.
Yeah, it does help to do a big, dramatic shedding of your WWE stink for sure. Because, of course, when you sign, the moment you signed, then you were always bad and forever will be bad. And then if you do manage to do a big, splashy thing to shed the stink, then it's like you were always good again.
I think like 2 months ago, I threw out the Chris Hero t-shirt I still had. So now I'm bummed. I just thought he was dead forever.
Yeah.
I mean, we should still not completely absolve him. He is a Duke fan.
That's true. I would have talked about that. Okay. Chris Hero is an adult.
Yeah.
He did not go to Duke.
Right.
And he's not from North Carolina.
Not at all. He's from Southern Ohio.
No reason for him to be a Duke fan.
It would make more sense if he was a Louisville, Kentucky, IU, or Ohio State fan, given where he's from.
I mean, there's no reason for anyone to be a Duke fan. Even if you're local to Duke, you have better options.
At least be an NC State fan. At least do that if you're going to be in
then
that
you
area.
can do the too sweet shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason to be a Duke fan. It's terrifying that someone would be drawn to Duke as like a
this,
child.
This Mike Krzyzewski guy, he's got so much charisma. I just can't get enough of this guy.
Like, terrified about the kind of person you are, but then to like go into adulthood and just never have that moment of like, oh yeah, this fucking sucks.
Right.
It's like, it's
You've
concerning.
definitely never met somebody from Duke.
Yeah. Oh no, it's very par for the course.
Yeah, I mean, give us some of that Central Ohio energy, Chris.
I mean, there's it, and it's also like something that if you meet people from Durham, they are all, no matter where they go, they'll be Duke fans, and it's obnoxious too. So yeah.
Well, it's like, I guess, the comp that people would make is like Yankees. It's like liking the Yankees, but there's a charm to like guys from the Bronx that are like, I like the Yankees, right? There's none of that charm with Duke fans.
Yeah. Like, and the other thing about the Yankees is the Yankees have enough like eras and like ebbs and flows that it's not like they're just omnipotent, like how Duke, Carolina, Kentucky, like all those schools are within college basketball. Like there's like even Kentucky had down years, I mean,
Whoa.
the Billy Giuseppe years.
I don't recall any of that happening.
Buddy, that does happen.
I think I've said on the show before that I am a Yankees fan.
Yeah.
But as an adult, I'm like, oh, this is like rooting for America, basically, in like a war with somebody good. So
but again, there's like, there's blue collar guys from the Bronx that you're like,
right.
Yeah, you're a likable like Yankees fan.
Yeah, and I really rest myself. I find peace in the fact that I became a Yankees fan because that was the T-ball team I was put on. It was 1995. They hadn't been to the playoffs since '78, so it wasn't.
Yeah, that's
right before the real big run.
That's why I said like there's ebbs and flows. Whereas with Duke, ever since Krzyzewski really got going, it's just it's like soul crushing like that. That's why we had to celebrate when Miami beat the living crap out of them in 2012, 2013, because those were important things, because you should cheer for the underdogs, a small scrappy team from Coral Gables led by a very old coach who's on one last ride with a plucky, undersized point guard whose dad was an MLB player who could not play baseball because his little league coach said he had a terrible swing. And where did he learn his swing? He said, "Oh, I learned my swing from my dad." "Oh, who's your dad?" "Barry Larkin." So you had to cheer for real teams like the University of Miami Hurricanes.
Liking Duke is like, you're like, no, I'm not into the NBA really. I like the fundamentals of college basketball, but even like the Big Ten is a little too flashy for me. I need it to be
Nopo Ryan
wider.
Here.
Yeah.
I can't take Wisconsin first to 50 ball. I need to have like my handheld a little bit.
Fake school. Okay, well, that's the show for the week. You can find us if you want to complain about something we said on this show, whether it was about Duke or about incest. You can tweet us at Everything AEW. Nate is at Epitasis. I want to be very clear about that. I'm Aaron Like the Card. Mike is at Fuji Heya. Subscribe to the podcast, rate and review, and please check out patreon.com/Everything Elite. Lots of good stuff coming there. So for Mike, for Nate, I'm Aaron, and we'll see you next week.